everyone. How are you all doing?
Good. Great.
Welcome to our Ethereum Meetup. My name is Paul, and I'm very excited as we are getting ready for Ethereum Frontier. I'm also joined by Constantine from Ethereum. He's joining us via Skype. Constantine, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. So, yeah, I assume you're just on mute, but just to let everybody know that you're also joining us from London. What time is it in London right now, Constantine?
It's about midnight.
Midnight? Well, I sure do appreciate you joining us so late at night.
Yeah, no worries.
So, my presentation, Getting Ready for Frontier, runs about half an hour, and Constantine will also be showing us GPU mining as well, which I'm really excited for, and I can't wait to see what he has to show us for GPU mining. We will leave time for questions, but feel free to jump in with any questions as well during the presentation. The presentation will also be available on YouTube, so a link will be provided and posted both on Reddit and also on the Meetup event as well in the comments section. A link will be available for the slides as well. So basically, there's a lot of info here. If you miss some of the info, don't worry. You can always go back to the YouTube and slides as well. So about Ethereum Toronto, our website is meetup.com/Ethereum Toronto, and Twitter is @Ethereum Toronto. So if you're interested in hosting an Ethereum event, assisting with organizing, presenting a topic, suggest topics for discussion, just drop us a line at ethereumtoronto@gmail.com. Even if your event is just as small as wanting to meet with 4 other people in a restaurant and just chat about Ethereum, feel free to just email me and I'll give you access to post an event to the meetup. And so that way we can build the Ethereum community here in Toronto that serves the Ethereum community here in Toronto. So we're going to cover why blockchains are useful, decentralized apps that are currently under development. We'll give you the latest news for the Ethereum Frontier launch. Also, we're going to cover the transition from proof of work to proof of stake. We'll cover the Ethereum mining algorithm called Ethash. We'll give you a quick mining update, as well as we'll show off the brand new Ethereum Network Status Monitor. So I've been doing these presentations for about a year now, and usually at the beginning of these presentations I'll ask the question, what is decentralization? So again, I ask you, what is decentralization? Anybody jump in with what is decentralization? Anybody at all? You can be wrong, it doesn't matter. There's not a test.
No center.
It's no center.
Systems without
That's right, no center.
Without gatekeepers.
A system without gatekeepers, that's right.
No single point of failure.
No single point of failure, that's right. This is starting to read like the Wikipedia entry on decentralization. That's exactly it. Decentralization is the process by which we move away from central authority. So it's essentially cutting out the middleman, the middle person. So decentralization, for example, one example of a decentralized application is BitTorrent. That's actually one of the first decentralized apps. And decentralization is one of the trends that are likely to disrupt this society as we know it in the years to come. It's one of the more disruptive trends, and it's already causing changes in our society. So examples like Uber, that's a form of partial decentralization. And you can see that that's already started to disrupt the taxi industry, for example.
Disintermediation is a beautiful word.
Disintermediation, that's right. So disintermediation, why is it a beautiful word?
It's a beautiful, gentle word for something that's actually quite horrible.
That's right.
People formerly in that position of power who are denuded and left helpless in their irrelevance.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens with decentralization with our society. Bitcoin was just one form of decentralization, and what it was just moving money from point A to point B. So, and now we're starting to see more complicated forms of decentralization, more sophisticated forms. So that is where we're headed, and that's why we're all headed, because we're excited about what it can offer and the change that it can provide us. So, very simply put, for anybody that doesn't know what Ethereum is, it's a platform for decentralization and decentralized applications, otherwise known as dApps. So, again, this is not a test. What is a blockchain? A chain of blocks. Indeed it is. What is a blockchain? A ledger.
Public ledger.
A public ledger. What is a blockchain?
Decentralized.
It's a decentralized ledger. Right? So what is a blockchain? Is it a triple entry public accounting ledger? Is it a linked list? Is this obscure distributed database? Is it an application of a state transition function? Well, yes, that's part of what it is. But how about this for definition?
Wow.
Magic computer.
Now, definition like this can only have come from the mind of Tal Burin. But what is the blockchain? What is it? It's a computer, a world computer, in which everyone can connect to and run programs that cannot be stopped. These programs, the output of these programs are stored essentially on the internet, in the cloud, forever, or for at least a very, very long time. These programs cannot be censored by a central authority. So the word in this definition, the most important word, is the word guarantee. It's the word guarantee that makes blockchains useful. Blockchains are useful because they provide the following guarantees. Guaranteed data availability. The data is always there when you need it, and it's never taken down. Guaranteed sharing of data stores. So what this does, it allows the aggregation of a lot of information, puts it in the cloud, and that data is available for anybody to use, and that can be used for other applications, including reputation. And this information, again, cannot be modified unless it's modified cryptographically through the power and security of the blockchain. It also provides guaranteed uptime, very far into the future. Uptime of 99.99999, that's 6 nines, uptime. That's better than Google. Guaranteed transparency in the execution of code. So once a program is run, again, it cannot be stopped. It's guaranteed to run in the exact way that is specified. Rogue code cannot be inserted. Google cannot insert code that you can't see in there. Apple cannot insert code that you cannot see in there. NSA cannot insert code that you cannot see. It's guaranteed to run exactly as specified. Guarantee communication between blockchain apps. So apps can talk to each other decentrally with 100% reliability, even if the underlying platform is 99.99999% reliable. So these guarantees actually allow for the creation of a Web3, a decentralized internet. They give the groundwork or foundation for base layer services. So decentralized apps that are built to rely on these base layer services can plug into these services. These services, because the efficiencies of the blockchain are so efficient, essentially, if you need to pull a piece of data off the blockchain, download a record, a customer record, or download any other service, download security for MFN multi-sig security on your app, download basically any kind of business logic that you need to, the cost curve approaches near zero. So these services are actually behave like a public good. So again, examples is identity. So there's no need to trust Google, Twitter, Facebook with your identity information. It's said that we're more and more getting more reliant on decentralized service providers for identity, and it's going to be more difficult to change your identity provider than it is to change your citizenship in the future. Domain name registration is another application or a decentralized base layer service. Certificate validity information and data feeds such as prices, weather, or other information. So at this point in the presentation, I would usually tell you what can be done with Ethereum. What I'm going to tell you now is what is being done with Ethereum. One of the most exciting projects on the Ethereum platform being released right now, they're actually entering alpha right now. It's called Augur. Augur is a decentralized prediction market. It actually allows users to use the wisdom of the crowd to peer in the future with a greater than 50% probability. You, of course, have heard of IBM and Samsung's joint venture with Project Adept for the Internet of Things, building blockchain logic into devices in your home that can communicate to each other, or build devices that actually can communicate to each other through your automobile, for example. So really sophisticated logic is now being designed. I think they had a video on here about a washing machine that would actually order and repair itself, order dishwashing detergent, or order a repairer to send a repairman to fix itself all automatically. No more Mt. Gox with the decentralized exchange called Etherwraps. So there's no centralized authority holding your private keys for your Bitcoin or your Ether or your Doge, my favorite, Dogecoin. So you have that as a centralized exchange. Open source software cannot be shut down or stopped. So you have a decentralized Git in the form of EtherGit. Airlock, which allows a store to automatically open in the morning and lock its doors at night. Providence, one of the most exciting projects on the platform. Providence allows the supply chain of a company to be transparent on the blockchain. So if a company says that it is fair trade, you can actually check its suppliers all the way back to where these coffee beans were sourced and actually see that it was indeed fair trade. Another application, for example, is conflict diamonds. One can actually see that that the diamonds are not as a result of war, but they were actually sourced conflict-free if you apply the transparency of the blockchain to it. WeFund, which is a decentralized Kickstarter. By the way, WeFund is the project of Nick Dotz. He's in Toronto, so I'm looking forward to talking to him. LaRouge, decentralized Uber. So, and the list goes on and on and on. The Ethereum platform is turning into an ecosystem that's supporting multiple dApps. Here's a list from George Sponti posted to Reddit. And the topic was state of the dApps. So if you want to look at this list, just do a search for state of the dApps on Ethereum Reddit. And there's all sorts of things on here. There's a social network. There's a reputation system. There's an insurance decentralized app. There's a e-dollar stable cryptocurrency app that can stabilize your dollars. There's a slot machine app. So the ecosystem is actually starting to really develop as we approach the Ethereum launch. Speaking of the Ethereum launch is, we should say Ethereum Frontier launch, because the Ethereum Frontier launch is approaching, and it's going to be rolled out into 4 different phases. So Ethereum Frontier, which I would describe as experimental, Ethereum Frontier is the first phase. The next phase is Homestead, and the phase after that is Serenity. Excuse me, the phase after that is Metropolis, and after that it's Serenity. So the idea is to do a phase launch because there will be bugs on the platform, and we want to actually make sure that it goes as cleanly as possible to make sure that there's no show-stopping bugs that puts a lot of the users at risk. So the intended audience for Frontier is exchangers and miners. And of course, as you can see, there are decentralized apps being built already. For Homestead, the intended audience is the decentralized app builders, the creators of those decentralized apps. And for Metropolis, it's dApp users. And so at that point, once Metropolis is released, that's Ethereum 1.0 or Ethereum proper. And that's where you'll actually have a graphical user interface where you can download into your decentralized browser and one-click and install decentralized apps. So it's not going to be terribly user-friendly for Frontier and Homestead. The interface is going to be command line, and so there's not going to be a pretty web interface. And just for the non-technical people at home, if you don't know what a command line is, this is command line. It's not user-friendly for just the non-technical audience. However, there will be Mist available for Metropolis and Serenity when that's launched. For Frontier, which is the phase coming up, the way mining is going to be working, it's going to be working on proof of work And as well, mining is going to be proof of work for Homestead and for Metropolis. Now there's going to be a switch from proof of work to proof of stake, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes for Serenity. Specifically for Frontier, proof of work will be done proof of work with checkpointing. Now what checkpointing is a snapshot we'll be taking of the whole blockchain, the whole state of the network. If there's a major show-stopping technical problem, the network itself might be rolled back to that point when that snapshot was taken. And again, that snapshot is taken every 24 hours. There will be no 24-hour checkpointing for the future phases. That's just a security precaution as we enter Frontier, which is fairly early in the game. And because we're fairly early in the game, the mining rate will only be 10% for Frontier. So that's about 0.59 Ether per block. And the blocks right now are ranging between 3 and 8 seconds, depending on how many miners are on the network. Now, the mining rate will go to 5.9 Ether per block once Homestead is released, and will continue. Of course, there's no mining in Serenity because it's proof of stake. So if you have on Frontier, if you've downloaded the client and you have Ether inside your wallet in the Frontier client, that balance will carry over when Homestead is launched, and it will carry, and all balances will be carried over. All wallet balances will be carried over in the 4 phases. However, dApps that hold balances, so contracts can also hold balances, that will not carry over from Frontier to when Homestead is launched. That will reset to 0. So, for example, if there's a decentralized exchange that's on Frontier, if it's like a contract that automatically changes one currency to another, any currency inside that contract will reset to 0. So again, just to reiterate, everything except the account balances will be erased once Homestead is launched. So once Frontier is over, Bitcoin exchanges will be running at launch, and will be up and running, and one can trade either for Bitcoin, but there will be that 24-hour checkpointing. So official exchanges will actually use checkpointing service to protect the traded assets from potential blockchain rollbacks. So if anybody sends Ether to an exchange, you may need to wait 24 hours for your deposit to be accepted once that checkpointing period has happened before you can get Bitcoin for Ether or go from Ether to Bitcoin, for example. So for anybody wondering when Frontier will happen, here's the latest word from Vitalik Buterin. And essentially what he's saying that we're waiting for GPU miners to be easier to install, easier to use, and to be available on more platforms and easier to use on more platforms. Also, we're waiting for a larger percentage of people who use the network to use GPU miners. And so once that happens, once that gets to a satisfactory level, and once the mining clients get to a satisfactory level, then there will be a 48-hour notice when Ethereum Frontier launches. So for those that want to dive into Frontier versus the Ethereum Frontier guide, the link, again, will be on YouTube in the slides, and it's also in the Ethereum blog. But just very simply, it's ethereum.gitbooks.io/frontier-guide. There is a section called caveats and disclaimer that will basically warn users that this is a frontier. I mean, it is a high-risk environment for users, and there may be possible bugs. So you may want to wait for a future release if you're a user who's not comfortable with that. So if you bought Ether during the Ether sale last year, I believe 60 million Ether approximately was sold last year, Ether purchased during the Ether sale last year will be redeemable at the Frontier launch. So instructions to redeem Ether will be made available at the Frontier launch, and redemption will be done through the command line, as again, there's no GUI in the Frontier release. So if you're not comfortable with the command line, then it's suggested that you wait for a point-and-click GUI to be available before redeeming your Ether, before redeeming your .json file. So the next phase, Homestead. Once Ethereum launches, the next phase will be Homestead. So if anybody wanted to see the progress on Homestead, really simple, or any other Ethereum phase, just Google Ethereum milestones, not miles, stones. And as we can see, we are 96% complete for the Frontier launch. So this will go to 100%, and then the Homestead Progress bar will start filling from 0 to 100%. So again, just remember that Google phrase if you want to see what's going on, where we are with the project. So for Metropolis, this is your Ethereum 1.0, your actual 1.0 launch. This is an example of what the GUI might look like. So when it can actually send money, there's a miner in this GUI. There's actually a whisper chat tab that lets you decentrally communicate with other users anonymously. And so this is just a concept right now. It might look different, far different in the future. There's actually a website that you can actually punch in your decentralized Web3 address that ends in .eth to visit a website similar to how Tor works, where you do have that decentralized network to protect the data. Here's an example of what it might look like to redeem your Ether that was bought during the Ether sale. So you can see there's an MFN backup that uses Shamir secret sharing, and there's even a step. As you can see, the next step here is to import your pre-sale Ether. So the next phase for Serenity, transitioning from proof of work to proof of stake. Proof of work, it's very wasteful. It wastes a lot of electricity, and eventually it actually leads to mining centralization, which means that only a few in the space actually are getting the mining reward that supports the network and processes transactions. So Ethereum could not begin with proof of stake. It had to start with proof of work. However, it is planning to transition to proof of stake. And the way it's going to do this, well, this is just one possible way this could change in the future. It's just one possible candidate. But the way it's going to do it is through a decentralized app called the Bomb. So the way the Bomb works is there's only 3 people on the planet that hold the keys to arm the bomb, and that's the core developers of Ethereum, Vitalik, Jeff, or Gavin. And if 2 out of 3 of these key holders submit their keys, the bomb activates. And it activates with a 1-week countdown. And you know what? Let's just go straight to GitHub, since this is all open source and anybody can see the information on GitHub. The bomb Ethereum. Here we go. Again, this is one possible solution. This might change in the future. So what happens when the bomb starts counting down? There are so many miners. There'll be like hundreds of miners or thousands of miners mining their Ethereum. Oh, by the way, this whole decentralized app, only 56 lines of code. So it shows you just how powerful these decentralized apps are and how elegant you can create, how elegantly they can be created. But once the bomb starts counting, there'll be hundreds or thousands of miners on there. Once the countdown is reached, either it will go off or it will not go off. If it goes off, the bomb will actually flood the old proof of work network with vast swaths of Ethereum. Precisely 2 to the exponent 150 Ether. And that will essentially make mining useless on the old proof of work network, and Ether will only have value on the new proof of stake fork. Now, when the timer counts down to 1 week, it will only go off. It will only release that much Ether if the following 2 conditions are true. The first condition is when the bomb starts counting down, anybody that holds Ether may basically put their Ether into escrow. Think of a button in your Ether client that says place into escrow. And if enough people do that, specifically, if 1/3 of the people holding Ether place their Ether into escrow, 1/3 of the, where n is 1/3 of the number of miners place their Ether into escrow, and the other condition is if the total amount of Ether placed into escrow is 3 million, then once the bomb the bomb terminal counts off, the Ether will be released, and that will essentially execute a hard fork to the proof of stake chain. So that's the bomb, and just for the YouTube audience, here's the original text off Reddit that explains it. And that's essentially how the launch will work. So at this point, I'd like to just while we're on the Ethereum launch, I'd like to cover off any questions on the Ethereum launch. Yes?
Is there a pre-mine on Ethereum?
What do you mean by pre-mine?
Most launches, the devs hold a major amount of, before mine's available to everybody else, they hold a massive amount, and if so, will that set off the stake like we transition through the stakes?
Yeah, good question. So during the Ether sale, approximately 60, I want to say 59 million Ether was sold, and of that 59, 20% was held. The 10% goes to the early contributors who contributed to the project for the first 6 months of its inception since November of 2014. Is that right? 13. And the other 10% is actually held by the Ethereum Foundation for the support and development of the protocol. So how that will interact with staking, well, there's about 60 contributors, so they'll get that 10% will be split among 60 people for that first part. For the second part, that's held by Ethereum, so I'm not sure how that's going to interact with the proof of stake. And obviously, if the Ethereum Foundation is holding 10%, they'll have to stake that. The foundation will have to stake that to keep getting transaction fees on the network. So, but I can tell you that. Want to jump in here, Ethan? Or?
Yeah, there's quite a few details here, but the 9.99% or so is held for the early contributors, those people who started from November 2013 and onwards until the sale. And then after that, there's another 10% held for some for rewards for good contributions to code, for rewards for finding bugs, and 1.8 million Ether. I might know more details on that one. Is held just for the foundation itself holds at least that much to help keep operations going for the platform, because we still have to build and fund like building a Homestead, Metropolis, and Serenity. So the original crowd so it gets us essentially to frontier and a little bit more. But we still need to fund the rest of it going forward, and that's what that's set aside for. So really, the success of a network, hope the price of Ether has to do decent. In other words, it's that the network's actually being successful at this point, and then we keep it going. So it's not a pre-mine such that, like, as you're asking, we've had in the past with cryptocurrencies where developers will take like a significant portion and they're going to reap incredible benefits from it. This is extremely decentralized. Nobody holds a vast amount from the team. It's well proportioned across all the contributors, and the foundation, if anything, the foundation itself will hold the most at this point, and that's purely that's available online. So that it's just going to go towards helping develop the system.
And you have questions on the launch of this? Yes.
I have a question related to what you were saying, Ethan. So the amount that was sold last year in the crowd sale, what percent of, say, the first year's money supply does that represent? Or
It would be of this 10%, 20% of total of 60 million would be
was sold already?
Well, that's what would go to the foundation. So what we're just talking about.
No.
Now,
But what I mean is, like, say when Frontier launches, there's an X amount of money supply, like X amount of Ether in circulation. What percentage of that was sold in the pre-sale last year?
Well, since pre-sale sold 60 million, I believe, Ether.
Yeah, 60 million was sold.
And on day one, how many Ether exist, or just the 60 million?
Well, actually, let's break out a calculator here. The amount of Ether that will exist on day one is...
Because that'll give you an idea of what pre-mine. I mean, it's
Here we
sort of
go.
like a proxy for pre-mine.
So we'll say 59. We'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just using odd numbers here. 60 million. You actually divide that by 0.8. And this is what the money supply looks like, 75 million. And then now, of that 75 million, that's essentially what you're looking at for day one money supply once mining operations begin. Very approximately. So.
Okay, but every day there's a certain increment of increase.
Yeah.
The vast majority, of course, is held by people who purchased it during their open crowd sale. So,
but what I mean is, like, for people who didn't purchase in day one, there's still like 15 million money supply that could be purchased.
Well, there's the inflation rate is 5.9 Ether per block that's available to miners, and so that money supply will, and that's an inflation rate of approximately 24%. but that will vary depending on the mining
But
conditions.
does inflation only the original amount too? So
Yeah.
over time, it'll be proportionally less.
Right. So like, I mean, it's not because I know like there's other coins where like on day one, like most of it's just gone, right? But this sounds like, you know, if you wanted to buy something, you could buy something even on day one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there'll be exchanges up and running. If you want to go from Bitcoin to Ether, you can buy Ether.
Or you can set up your miner
Or simply mining.
And
And
do
that's
your-
ideal,
and do
right?
your-
You want as many people as possible contributing their GPUs. You know, like you don't have specialized hardware in this case. You just get your graphics card and hope you'll get a little bit of Ether that way.
But there's a bit of space for that, right? Because
Yeah.
there's definitely like other coins that it's just like the entire thing is like gone.
In the pre-sale contract, it has a chart show the inflation rate of the new supply, and it's a fixed amount and then decay over time.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, it says constant linear inflation. So the inflation, yeah, you're right. The inflation rate does decay over time. Thanks, Victor. Any other questions on the launch?
How much do you know about the exchanges, like decentralized exchanges that will offer Ether?
There's 5 on a list. I do not have a list of 5 right now.
There might be more.
There might be more, but George Hallam has confirmed 5 will be available at least. So, and then you have the Etherwraps, I believe as well, which will be available. So
Yeah, any big names in there?
I don't know. I think that will be made public, like once the launch comes out. So.
They'll be very keen to tell you.
Yeah, they'll tell you buy your Ether here.
How do the decentralized app determine how many ether they need to execute a calculation?
It's fairly complicated. The yellow paper has the precise Ether per calculation. So if you Google Ethereum yellow paper, it actually will tell you every different type of calculation how much it will cost. So if you want to store X amount of bytes in a blockchain, it will cost this much. I'm not even sure Ether is a unit used. I think it's some subunit like Way or some other unit. But the yellow paper has the full details for that. So okay, so I guess that's all the questions for the Ethereum launch. On to the most exciting topic called mining. But before we talk about mining, let's just quickly plug DAPList. Sorry, excuse me. DAPList is, by the way, another email list I want to mention. Etherdispatch.com basically is a really good newsletter. So you just sign up for it and you get curated information every week to stay up to date with the project without having to do the research yourself. So I subscribe to it. I highly recommend it. DAPList is, yes.
Are there archives available?
Yes, there are. Actually, let's go and Google. You don't have to sign up for it. Actually, if you do Ether Dispatch, oopsie, Ether Dispatch. Here we go. Here's all the archives. We're on newsletter number 3, so you don't have to sign up for it. You can just Google it, and you can go and visit previous issues as well for the Dispatch newsletter. So past issues are here. It's really great. I highly recommend. Oh, we're up to issue number 5 already. I highly recommend it. It's a really great source for information. It's actually done by, on the Reddit forums, it's done by Heliumcraft. He's out of Montreal. He's just really passionate about Ethereum. So, but yeah, DAPList as well. If you Google Ethereum DAPList, it also it's run by George Hallam and Ethereum DAPList. I also recommend this. This is for developers though. This is more meant for developers. Daplist.net is the actual website. So it's highly recommended if you're a developer and want information on it. So mining. Let's talk to a local miner. So Anthony has been mining since day 1. Why don't you come up here and I'll just ask you some questions about mining. So well, thank you for agreeing to do this, Anthony Cross. Yay, give him a hand. So
Pioneer.
how'd you get into mining? What made you want to start mining?
I felt like I stood a chance, unlike Bitcoin, because I joined Bitcoin much later. So it was no point at the time when I joined. So Ethereum looked like it was early enough. So when I saw the post by Vitalik on this Olympic period of time, I thought I'd give it a shot. So I started by installing the Go client on my machine on the Docker container. I don't know if people know what Docker is. It allows you to kind of like isolate, because this is really alpha kind of software. So I don't know if I would trust it with my personal machine. So I put that in that Docker container, and the hash rate was very, very low. Even for a beginning, basically I wasn't getting anything. So, so I looked up online and I realized that, well, even though GPUs were not quite joining the network yet, it was quickly not going to be possible to mine just with a CPU. So I thought about it and I recycled an old machine that I had, and I got myself a somewhat decent GPU card, which was an AMD, and I never got it to work. Actually, I did a couple of days ago, but I never actually got it to work on time for it to be actually useful, so that was kind of wasted. That's fine, I'll recycle it for like video games. So what I thought is I would try an Amazon instance. Like they have some Amazon instances with GPUs on them. I believe the biggest one have 4 GPUs, 4 NVIDIA GPUs on them. So it's not cheap. It's I forgot the exact rate. I think maybe $3 an hour. So it was more like a way for me to try it out. And it took me quite some time to make it work because you need to combine the Go client and the C++ client. And but from my personal experience, I would say that the Go client is much more reliable. Now I don't know how many C++ developers they have. It's also in my I'm a developer myself, so I think it is probably much harder to develop Ethereum with C++ than it is with Go. So that might just be the reason. So like right now, I've managed to make some of the NVIDIA GPUs on the Amazon instances mine, and so I managed to mine a few blocks of that Olympic reward thing, which I really hope is going to actually be given out. I'm sure it will. At this very point, I turned off the Amazon instance because obviously this was costing me. But I'm actually keeping the AMD machine that I've managed to run. So I'm actually mining for free basically because I don't think there's any official reward that's promised on that one. But it's nice to be just part of the network. Otherwise, like, so if anyone's interested in trying to mine, I can try and point you to the docs. There's plenty of docs especially on the forum. There's Stefan Tuel, who's actually pretty active on it. He's detailed all the steps that one needs to do. I don't know about the Windows mining things, part of things, but the Ubuntu part of things is actually you have to be very careful with what you do, especially with the AMD GPUs. So yeah, like if anyone has questions afterwards, I'll gladly answer them.
I'll leave time for one question for Bradley. Go ahead, or 2 questions.
Sorry, someone else. Oh, just wondering, what were the NVIDIA Amazon instances like? Are they for graphical rendering? And do you know if there's anyone? I'm just thinking, I never thought of it before. What can someone try to like get a render farm? Like I know there's render farms that you can rent for like rendering movies and rendering like in graphic design.
You mean, what do you think they're actually intended for?
Yeah, like what are they intended for? And
maybe cryptocurrency. Maybe someone at Amazon thought, oh, you know what, like there's a lot of cryptocurrency miners out there, and like like it's definitely not economically worth it. Like unless you're very bullish on Ether.
It might be worth looking into render farms though, like, specifically graphic cards like for rendering like
computer science and math problems. If you just want to have a big farm rendered for an hour or a few hours,
maybe it's not.
Well, out of curiosity, I also looked at Google Engine, which is the equivalent basically on Amazon EC2, and they also offer like plenty of different machines, but they don't have a GPU. So I don't know. I mean, they don't have GPU specific machines, whereas Amazon has 2 kinds basically. But again, very expensive. So unless you're very bullish on Ether, but I mean, it might be.
One last question. You got a question? Or?
Yeah. So you didn't try on Windows machine?
No, I don't know on the Windows machine.
the CPU mining worked on Windows.
Yeah.
For the others, you needed to be under Linux.
Well, I'm sure it did because the Go client was working pretty smoothly. So like the only thing you had to do was like start get this mine option, and by default it would go to your CPU. So, yeah, I really hope that they don't start Frontier without the GPU mining on
Me
Geth.
too.
Yeah, because I think it would be a big mistake.
Thank you so much. It's good to have you. Thank you. Okay, so just an update on mining. The mining algorithm is called Ethash, and Ethash, the mining algorithm is a mix of Hashimoto by Thaddeus Draja and Dagger by Vitalik Buterin. I used to say that the block time was 12 seconds. Is actually in reality it's closer to 3 to 8, between 3 seconds and 8 seconds, and it decreases with difficulty. Mining pools will not be available at launch, and so it's up to you to configure your miner and mine individually. So the features, it's ASIC resistant, so it works on memory bandwidth. Yes?
What does that mean, decrease with increase in difficulty? You mean get to
We're finding, good question, we're finding that the spec says 12 seconds. What people are finding, however, is on the actual network, as the difficulty goes up, as the hash rate goes up, the block time is actually decreasing. And actually, the team is looking into that as well. So, but empirically, somewhere between 3 and 8 seconds is what the block time is. So it's sped up. And by light client verifiable, I mean any light client can download the whole what needs to download in about 40 seconds. And in order to actually mine and get mining rewards, the miner needs to download the full blockchain, which can take a fairly long time. So this slide is just for YouTube. I'm just going to skip it for time. But that's basically what it is. It's ASIC resistant, and it's light client verifiable. The light client is downloaded very quickly, the algorithm, and you need to download the full chain. So just very quickly, because Constantine is going to cover GPU mining, at this stage I'll say that it requires use of the command line. If you want the most up-to-date information on mining, just hit the mining forums on forums.ethereum.org, and you would recommend it to have a 2 GB memory for your graphics card, as it's downloading a lot of information. It's called the DAG, the directed acyclic graph, and also AMD GPUs will be faster than NVIDIA GPUs because the implementation is written in something called OpenCL. I wanted to just point out this really nifty website as well called Etherwraps.info. Hopefully it'll come up with no problem. I was having trouble loading the website today. But essentially, if you go to etherwraps.info, you can see the current mining statistics. And again, it's not really loading up really quickly, so I'll have to just get to the point. The point is if you want mining statistics, it's a great website. Also, the second point is that mining already, because there's real Ether involved in mining, even on the Olympic test network, that's getting very competitive. I took a screen capture on May 18th. And the top 3 addresses are getting 50% of the mining rewards. I think it's not that bad. I think currently it's about the top 6 are getting 50% of the mining rewards. But it just goes to show you how competitive it's really getting and how really mining farms are starting to enter into the mix. So I took this screenshot off Reddit. Here is somebody that actually took their computer and hooked up 27 graphics cards to their computer. And is basically mining a mining farm. At that time, he was getting 20% of the mining reward. And now, if you consider how much Ether he was getting, my calculations show that he was getting 1,000 Ether every day, which it's a lot of Ether for only $13 per day. So it's getting very competitive. The benefits of skill are starting to come into it, and you're starting to get these multiple GPU setups as well. Finally, the network stats.fdev.com, that's where you want to go to get your latest mining statistics. It shows the block time here, as well as the hash rate, and as well as the difficulty. It was 1.2 gigahertz. It's fallen off to 900. Yeah, and it even includes a nifty map. So there's somebody here in South Africa mining, South America, a bunch of people in Canada and USA and Europe. So again, stats.ff.com is where you go to get the latest activity on the network. And there's even nodes that are listed here, and you can even sort it by mining rate. Now, not everybody who's mining actually makes their information available to this website. It's optional. It's not required to post your node to this website. So if you're interested in knowing more about the Ethereum project, you can simply Google Ethereum Toronto, and that'll get you our Meetup on meetup.com. The official website for Ethereum is ethereum.org, and if you're a developer interested in knowing more about development, you can also go to fdev.com. Check out the Ethereum blog, the Ethereum forums, the community on Reddit at r/Ethereum, and follow the Ethereum project at Ethereum project on Twitter. One really useful bit of information is this link here, bit.ly/IRC_Ethereum. It's the easiest way to actually get into the IRC channel. And the IRC channels is #Ethereum for the general chat and #Ethereum-dev for developer chat. So that's our presentation. Thank you very much. Constantine, are you there with us? Are you still there?
Yeah.
That was a long presentation, so thank you for hanging with us. I think it's like 1 a.m. in London right now.
Yeah, well, it's fine. It's a good presentation.
Well, Anthony is available as well to answer any questions as well, but he's going to take us through a GPU setup. And but any quick questions right now before we continue with Anthony's presentation? Ethan, you had a question? Or no? By the way, I should say, if anybody wants to go to washroom, my wife has the card, and she'll take you down. So, yes?
What was the connection between ether and gas?
The ether and gas?
Yes.
The quickest answer, it's very complicated, and I wouldn't be the best person to ask. But the actual answer is actually in the Ethereum yellow paper. I'd like to know the answer as well. Maybe you can help me out with that there, Constantine?
Yeah, sure. What was the question once again?
What is the connection between ether and gas? What's the relation between ether and gas?
Sure. So there's a couple of terms you need to understand here. So gas price, and ether. When you write a smart contract, smart contracts have functions. Yeah? Every function, once compiled down to opcodes, sort of assembly-like language, every opcode costs a certain number of gas units, which depends on how many CPU cycles your computer needs to spend executing that opcode, or how much memory or disk space is going to take. That's a constant amount. So say mstore, which is a command to write something, a piece of data into your memory, costs 3,000 gas. Yeah, it's a constant amount, it's never going to change. Now, every transaction has estimated gas amount. So that is the amount of all your opcodes put together, expressed in terms of gas units. This is how much gas is going to cost you to execute a certain transaction, right? So next thing is the gas price. Is the variable, which is the network estimated amount of ether that you pay for a unit of gas. Yeah, this is a variable. So if your mstore command costs you 3,000 gas units, and the gas rate is gas price, sorry. The gas price is 1 ether per gas, then executing a transaction, so executing this opcode will cost you 3,000 ether. And it's a really hypothetical example. It's not like one gas unit is never going to cost 1 ether. But does that sort of answer the question?
Any other questions on gas price? Okay, any other questions?
Actually, how is it set?
How's gas price set there, Constantine?
Right, so
Good question.
Unlike gas, which is basically defined in code, so it's kind of hard-coded, gas price is voted on by the miners. So miners estimate, so they estimate what the current gas price should be, and they set that for every block.
Okay, so
but based on what criteria?
Market economy. It's almost like an auction. So I say I want to give the transaction this gas price, and I'm saying that I'm going to compute a cheaper gas price. So we're kind of we almost want an auction on who's going to take the transaction and they can go at the lowest gas price.
So how is that different than like with Bitcoin? Like for example, when you do a Bitcoin transaction, the cheapest miner, usually the person who's willing to do it quickest for the lowest price generally does the transaction.
That's my same model. Right now, also they transact. So whoever sends the transaction can specify the gas price. So you can either use the default, which is the current default gas price in the network, or you can set your own.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sir Constantine. Any other questions on the Ethereum launch, generally speaking? Okay, super. Constantine, I'm gonna let you go ahead with your presentation, and I'm gonna basically have you share your screen.
All right.
So, why don't you tell us what you're demoing?
Right. So I mean, we covered. So you covered most of the theory anyway. So I reckon my demo is going to be pretty quick. What I'm going to show you is some steps you need to take to install the Go client. Then the miner package. The two things are separate. And how to get them to work together. Now, the process is pretty trivial. So I have to say my machine was not powerful enough for mining, so I had to use an EC2 Amazon instance with a GPU card set up, and I've used the default Ubuntu 14.04 for this, which is very minimal install of Ubuntu, and installation on this platform was pretty straightforward. The only thing I had problems with were drivers. What I found, the only thing you actually need to do to set up your drivers on on minimal Ubuntu 14.04 is you need to install a package called it's called Linux generic. So yeah, you just basically install like any other package, sudo apt-get install Linux generic, and don't forget to reboot your machine. So sudo reboot, and after that you'll have your default no UVL drivers. And install in order to install CUDA drivers, you just go to the CUDA website. Just basically Google CUDA drivers. Yeah. You're gonna get to this page, which just lists all your drivers for different platforms. The one we're looking at is Ubuntu 14.04. I recommend here getting either a local deb package or a network installer. If you're feeling adventurous, get the one. But yeah, I mean, there's no point doing this. Using the one package is a lot more involved. So just get yourself a local installer or a network installer, and you should be fine. Right. So that should get you up and running with the drivers. You can always check them with modprobe, or just download the ethash, the ethminer package, and check that this works. So, in order to install the Go client, once again, it's a very simple process. There's instructions in, that's CPP. So there's instructions in the Go Ethereum wiki. So you navigate to this page, so the GitHub repository, go to wiki. Here there's installing Ethereum. And installation instructions for Linux, Ubuntu, and boom. There's two options here. So one is installing from PPA, another one is building from source. And you either option is fine, but from my personal experience is that installing from source building from source is usually a lot more reliable. And again, it's just 3 steps. So just clone the repository, install the dependencies, cd into the repository, and cd into the directory, and do make geth, and it should be, and that should be that. So right now I have my Go Ethereum installed in the Go Ethereum directory. We can run it by running the local geth script, build bin geth. You need to supply the RPC option. That's the JSON RPC setting that allows external components to connect to your client programmatically and exchange data with it. This is required for your Ethminer package from CPP Ethereum to work, to be able to communicate with geth. Oh, one more thing. You probably want to run it with console as well. The console setting allows you to interactively, it allows you to interact with the running client. So you can issue commands in JavaScript syntax, and just sort of gives you a little bit more control. Another thing is that the first time you run your Go client, it needs to catch up on the blockchain, and that might take a while. I mean, we're talking like 3, maybe 4 hours. So right now my client is a little bit behind. So my current block is 447,466. What's the latest on stats? 447, 468. Yeah, so I was just 2 blocks behind. Right. The next thing you'll need to install is Ethminer. It's it's the mining package built as part of CPP Ethereum, the C++ client. So in order to install it, unlike with the Go client, it's better, well, it's certainly easier to use an Ethereum PPA. So I would definitely recommend using the developed version. It's a little bit more up to date. Maybe about a month more up to date, which is like eternity in Ethereum terms. Yeah, add all your repositories, run sudo apt-get update. That should add all of the CPP Ethereum repositories to your local list of apt-get repositories, and then you can install components. So you can't install sudo apt-get install CPP Ethereum, which will install everything that that there is in CPP. So ls0, eth, whatever else is there. But in reality, if you just want to get the miner to work, you just need Ethminer. So your command would look like sudo apt-get install Ethminer. Yep. And that should install Ethminer on your system. To check that it works and also benchmark the system, you can run Ethminer.
Why would we want to benchmark constantly?
Sorry?
Why would we want to benchmark?
Well, firstly, it allows you to test whether your system is working, whether Ethminer is actually working. Because if there's any problems with drivers, you will know about. Yeah, it will tell you. And secondly, it just tells you what how well your system can mine. Yeah, in simple terms. Sorry?
Just one question. I was holding on to the end. I didn't realize I could ask what was going. You mentioned. I know that Ethereum is geared towards light clients being an option, but presumably developers need to download the whole thing. What are you mentioned? It take like 3 or 4 hours to download the blockchain so far. Is that it's like the first couple of weeks? Like, is it going to be like how intense? Is that expected to continue at that rate for that developers will need to, to download that much?
Well, it's certainly not going to get less than that. I mean, it's the blockchain, right? So if you want to run a full client, you need to download the blockchain. Same is true for Bitcoin, for Litecoin, and any other blockchain, any other blockchain-based technology, right?
So, okay.
1.8 gigabytes.
I think it may become a little bit faster once the network grows. Because one of the reasons why it's sort of slow-ish at the moment is that the network is not wide enough. So there's not enough nodes geographically located near me, so I would download it faster from them. I mean, it's the same logic that applies to torrents, right? Anyway, let's try and benchmark the system. So yeah, as you can see, it tells me. Sorry.
Prepare to die. It's a dog, by the way, just for the audience.
Dog.
Yes.
DAG is a big file that is used for mining. So you might have heard that Ethereum mining is memory hard. Basically what that means is that the process of mining requires a very large file that resides in your memory and constantly grows, and parts of that file are used for generating block hashes that are validated against difficulty rules and other rules. One important thing you need to know about the DAG file is that it's 1 GB in size and is growing. So your GPU card needs to have at least 2 GB of RAM, so of on-card memory. This is the reason why my laptop's card was not good enough for mining. I have just 1 gig, so yeah, and it also takes some time to generate the DAG file. Yeah, so as you can see, my benchmark runs successfully. My hash rate is at about 6 mega hashes a second. It's all right. It's not great. The main reason why it's not great is that because I'm using NVIDIA cards, and it just so happens that AMD cards are a lot better suited for mining Ethereum. Right.
Any idea what hash rate you'd give with the AMD?
Well, it depends on the particular card, but some people say that one really cost-effective card is AMD R9 290X or something like that, and it gives you about 24 mega hashes a second.
Right. Yeah, right. That's quite an improvement. 4 times the amount.
Yeah. There are more powerful cards produced by both NVIDIA and AMD, but this one is sort of, it's a good value, right? Right. Well, actually, let's try and connect this thing to Geth. So the command is almost the same, -G, but no -M option. And hopefully, we're going to see this thing actually doing something. Hopefully, mining. So loading DAG file, grabbing DAG, and yep. So now, as you can see, it's getting work packages from Geth via the RPC, and it's mining at rate of 6 mega hashes. Yeah. So my Fminer program submits mine blocks to Geth for validation, and it receives the work packages from it via the RPC. So that's why you need this sort of programmatic channel of communication. And if you leave this setup running long enough, it's definitely going to mine your block. Just before the presentation, I managed to mine one. Even with this not very powerful GPU card. So yeah.
Are you going to keep this instance to cache in your block?
Sorry, say again?
Are you going to keep this instance to cache in your block when Frontier launches? Because I know any blocks that are mined, you get rewarded even on the Olympic testnet.
Yeah. So yeah, once you've mined something and the block got accepted by the network, you will get reward. Well, actually, the only reward you'll get at the moment is testnet ether, which isn't worth anything. During the Olympic phase, there was a reward of half an ether per block mined, but I think this phase of Olympic ended with block number 400,000.
Okay. So that actually answers a question that one of us had. Anthony was wondering whether or not the block will continue past 400,000. So I guess the word at Ethereum is it won't continue past 400,000?
Well, the latest news I've heard were that this phase was running up until the 400,000 block height, and we are at 440 or something like that. So I think, I mean, unless somebody stated otherwise somewhere, I think you're not gonna get any rewards at this stage. So you'll have to wait until Frontier.
So basically, if you have test Ether, you can use it to spam the network and get rewards through the Olympic program.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, you can do that. I mean, yeah. Sorry, I should have mentioned that. If you manage to break the network, well done. Yeah, you'll get up to 2,500 Ether, I think.
It's 5,000 Ethereum if you manage to fork the network too. So, but it's still worth something.
5,000. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very good reward. So.
Mm.
Cool. And there it is. It's mining in color.
Yeah, lots of colors. So yeah, I think at this point I should ask like, is there any questions?
Yeah, any questions at this point about this is how you set up a miner A to Z on GPU? It's obviously complicated for the average person, but this is how it's done. So any questions at all for
what happens if you successfully mine a block? Bing, bing, bing.
It's like Vegas. It's Vegas Ethereum.
Is there a slot machine going on? Is there a slot machine music going on your end there, Constantine?
Well, I mean, yeah, you can say so. It's just one big slot machine. This whole thing.
What's the hash rate right now?
The hash rate is 6 megahashes.
Let's check.
On miner getting 6 megahash.
Yeah, 778 megahashes a second. The highest I've seen in the last couple of weeks was 1.3 gigahashes. So it went down. I think it went down because we stopped rewarding for blocks. So yeah, there's little point left. People just spinning their hardware, paying electricity bills for mining testnet Ether.
Yeah, I think at this point people are mining just to get testnet for the contest that's still going on for Olympics. So
yeah.
Any other questions for Constantine?
So what kind of computer is using to run this?
What kind of computer are you using to run this mining?
It's a well, as I mentioned, it's an AWS instance, but you need a very
in simple terms, what is an AWS instance?
Well, AWS is Amazon cloud computing services, web services. It's a platform as a service that allows you to launch instances. Virtual private VPS, virtual private servers, which have installs of whatever you choose of operating system. So you can run Ubuntu or Red Hat Linux, actually any flavor of Linux or even Windows. You can basically you're renting hardware and software to run your applications or servers or whatever you have there.
Yeah, basically renting computer space in the cloud.
Yeah.
Just a comment from Ivan in the back. He's saying it's not worth mining on AWS instance.
My take is it's not worth. I mean, if you're just playing with this technology, then yeah, sure, but by all means. But I doubt that so the current hash rate you get from one instance of G2, that's the one you're looking for. This one has GPU the GPU hardware. So you get 6 megahashes from it, which isn't a lot, and you're paying 60 cents an hour for it.
So Alvin's saying it's worth it not having to eat it, but ultimately I guess it's what this worth now will be when Ether actually gets a price in the marketplace, because right now this is being done, you don't know what Ether is worth. So
yeah, I mean it's impossible to. I mean it's if you ask me like is it it's going to be profitable or not to mine with GPUs on AWS or with this or that card, and it's impossible to know that because there's too many variables.
it's really not worth buying Bitcoin with an AWS instance.
Yeah, sure.
Once it starts buying, it's 60 cents now. I want to try that first, give it some money, and then try buying the money.
Yeah.
Really, be stuck with a lot of money.
Yeah, don't go out and buy 27 GPUs.
As your software might get, maybe like years worth free time on these kind of services.
A year's worth of free AWS instance. If you're doing a start from IBM, you can do a year's worth of free
software. Got a deal for startups and new businesses where they'll basically pay have a load of free service for a year, but it's getting the book. Same on as yours. There's lots of stuff with free time if you go through this part on Microsoft. They'll give you, I think it's 2 years worth of free everything from Microsoft basically.
Right, so you can take that free
time.
That free computer power, just sit there and mine, get something for nothing, basically. Nice.
Be careful with your credit card. Sometimes they charge you. You have to find your way to get the money back. If you're giving any information to any of these cloud mining services, try using a prepaid card. And so Microsoft is not, well. Amazon still takes those Canada post.
Thank you. Alwyn, I can tell Alwyn has had this giant GPU body. Before he's had Alwyn's seen this movie before. So. Any other questions for Constantine while we have him here? It's well, let's give him a hand. Thank you very much, Constantine.
Thank you.
I appreciate you taking the time. I think it's like 1:30 in London right now.
Here's top right.
Yeah, it's 1:28. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Kids time.
Okay, well, I guess that wraps it up for our event tonight. So I'll let you go there, Constantine. Thanks again so much.
All right, thank you. Yeah, thanks for listening.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.